Welcome to the Say It Out Loud podcast. I'm your host, Vasavi Kumar. If you're eager to gain clarity, speak with unwavering confidence, and liberate those inner voices, you're in the perfect spot. My mission here is to empower you to break free, find fulfillment, and ignite your passion. You ready? It's time to say it out loud. I've put together a guide of my top 10 tested and proven to work practical strategies and habits to help bright women like you say no, set your boundaries right, live confidently, and build healthy relationships, starting with the relationship you have with yourself. This is a self-paced guide, and I can't wait for you to dig into it so you can start becoming your most confident self, because she's in there waiting for you. Head to the link in my show notes or go to vasavikumar.com/guide and grab it today. Okay, y'all, I am very excited to be talking to my guest today because, first of all, her book is ready for pre-order, but it's not even about her book. It's what she's writing about in her book. My guest today, author Mara Glatzel, is the author of the upcoming book, Needy. Can you tell why I already love the title and this conversation that we haven't even had yet? The name of her book is called Needy: How to Advocate for Your Needs and Claim Your Sovereignty. I want to say, Mara, thank you so much for being here and also for writing this damn book, because I need to get my hands on it. And I cannot wait to talk to you about how this book came about. Where in your life did you realize that you weren't claiming your needs? I want people listening to this to really tune in, because if you have difficulty expressing on the outside what you're really feeling on the inside and saying it out loud, then this conversation is for you. Mara, welcome to the Say It Out Loud podcast. How are you, my dear?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I am great. And that was quite an introduction. I'm stoked to have this conversation. It's so funny. I often find that when people hear about my book or hear the name of my book, we're either in two camps. The first is kind of shame territory of feeling like I'm way too much. I have too many feelings. I have too many needs. I already know that. It feels like a huge impetus to the kind of relationships that I want to have. And I'm always kind of, making myself smaller to try and belong. And the other side is needs. I don't know them. I don't have them.
I don't have them.
I don't have them.
I'm immune.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I always say that this is a book for, and my work in general is a book for people who have needs, and also those of us who like to pretend that we don't, because of course we all have needs. And wherever it is that we might be in our relationship with our needs is one thing, but none of us are immune from having needs. That's for damn sure.
Were you always a person, a human being who was highly aware of her needs, or not aware of her needs? Or you were aware of your needs, but you had a hard time expressing them? Like, take us back.
Yeah, I was in fact not aware of my needs. I was the kind of person who specialized in knowing exactly what the kind of capital R right thing was to do, what everybody else wanted from me, what was the shortest avenue to external validation and success. And I knew what the right thing to do was. And what I did not know and was not in touch with at all was what I needed and what I wanted. And so there came a turning point in my life. I think it was maybe 27 or 28 when I realized that my life didn't reflect me at all. It looked nice, maybe, I was planning this fancy vineyard wedding. My partner is very cute. Fiance was very sweet. I was in grad school getting my master's for social work from a very prestigious institution. I was doing all of the quote unquote right things, but I was so burnt out. I was so just tied up in knots from the amount of people pleasing that I was doing on a daily basis, and didn't even realize the depths to which I was doing that. And my life started to feel really bad. And as I didn't really want to look into that because I did not have time for that.
We don't have time to look at our needs. That's probably, that's a huge one.
But yeah, look, needs will be met one way or another. And I started to, my life, my burnout, my energy levels, my exhaustion, I started to be really unpredictable, and I didn't like being unpredictable. And in that, things started to reveal themselves. Like, this isn't working. I don't like this, which was not really something that I had ever known I was allowed to say even. And, over the course of that year, certainly big changes and other changes since then, my life has taken on a completely different shape, directed by what I want and what I like and what feels like success and, I don't know, the right next step for me, versus this really just overarching, very powerful connection to, this is what is expected of me, and that is the only option available.
So when you were at a place in your life, right, where your life didn't reflect who you are, and I love the way that you said that. It's like you have all the trimmings on the outside. I went to a prestigious school. I went to Columbia. I got my MSW. I did all the things. I very, my Indian parents were very happy. I chose Columbia over NYU. And they were like, you got to go to an Ivy League. You know what I mean? So I did all the things that I thought I should do as an Indian woman to be respected. Respect is something huge for me. It's like I needed to feel respected, and this will give me respect, and these letters will give me respect, and this car will give me respect. Even to this day, Mara, I have all the things, right? But just like you, when that period in my life where I felt like my life did not reflect who I was, I want to first just say that that is truly the first step. Is we have to say my life does not reflect who I am. Okay. And we have to answer that honestly. So that's the first step, right? As any person in recovery knows this, the first step is to admit my life is unmanageable. I don't know what the F I'm doing. I am powerless in the face of boom, boom. I'm powerless in the face of myself, whatever it is, right? For you, once you answered that honestly, then what? How did you start taking that inventory, cleaning up house, expressing those needs, right? How did you begin? Because when you've been minimizing your desires and your needs for so long, then you decide like, oh, I want to claim my sovereignty, right? Which is the ultimate goal, right? To claim it fully. Where do we even begin?
Yeah, so for me, it was a hot mess. I'm just going to say that
Out
plainly.
loud. You're going to say
I
it out loud.
was in Vermont. I was at this retreat. I was being paid to go to this retreat. I had a body image blog that was fairly successful at that time. And I was being paid to go to this retreat to kind of blog from the inside of it. And while I was there, I was steadily having a total breakdown.
Wow.
And one morning I woke up and I had been crying the whole night before. And I just, I was almost done with school. All of my friends were applying for jobs. And every time I thought about applying for jobs, I felt like I was being put in a coffin. Like I
Yeah.
felt it was so dramatic. I mean, that sounds dramatic, but it felt dramatic. I just would kind of black out. And I was doing great in school,
Yeah.
and I was really good at being a social worker, and I definitely could have gotten a good job that I, was just teed up to get. But I just couldn't get around how it felt. And all of a sudden, I started to look at my teachers and see, the models of success. I mean, it's different in social work now. We talk
Mm-hmm.
about self-care for social workers. We did not talk about self-care for social workers
Mm-hmm.
even 10 years ago. And I just started to realize everyone around me was really unhappy. And I didn't want to be really unhappy. And that maybe being good at something didn't mean that I had to do it for my whole life. And maybe I didn't really know what any of that meant, but I woke up this morning and I asked myself, like, if this was the last year of your life, what would you do? And the answer was I wouldn't become a social worker.
Mm.
And I had just spent, 100K on that
Mm-hmm.
education. So that was really cute to find out.
Yeah.
And I decided I was going to start my own business, which I did not really know how to do. And I came home from that retreat and I said to my fiance, we were about 3 months from getting married. And, I said, I'm not going to be a social worker, and I'm going to start my own business. And also, perhaps more devastatingly, you don't know me.
Mm.
And it's uncomfortable to have a conversation like this at this juncture, but I don't think I've ever let you know me. And it's not, it's totally my fault. I am just starting to realize the depths to which I have been covering up who I am and presenting this curated image and, kind of doing a shitty job of it because it doesn't feel good to do that. It's not like I was totally in control. I was out of control. Sometimes I was perfect and sometimes I was so messy because none of it was true, and I was hemorrhaging energy into presenting this image for what? Right? What was so bad that I thought was underneath that needed that much energy?
I'm really glad that you just said out loud that sometimes you did a really great job of like projecting this persona that you had it all together. And then on the other extreme, you were like hot mess express. Totally get that. I relate 100%. And I'm really happy that you just said, well, of course, well, I'm just paraphrasing it, what I heard. Okay. So I want to make sure I'm clear here. Basically what I got from that was it's like, well, no shit. Of course I went from being like perfectly personified and that's my image to being a hot mess. And because you were living a very conflicted life. So I want everyone hearing this because I hear some of y'all say this to me in my one-on-one sessions. You say this to me in my Say It Out Loud group. You're like, Vas, I want to close the gap between who I am on the inside and what I'm expressing. And then you take these hot mess moments like the ones Mara is talking about, and you make that the truth of your life. And so I really want you to hold on to what Mara just said, that if you are feeling like a hot mess, and now I'm totally extrapolating from what you're extrapolating, but this is what I get from this is like, you realize that you having hot mess moments doesn't mean that you are actually a hot mess. It could be more indicative of the symptom of you not living your truth. And no wonder you're just having these polarizing moments where you're like, yay, everything's great too. Oh my God, my life is in shambles. Is that pretty much correct, accurate, Mara?
Yeah. Well, and I think what really sucks and what is true
Yeah.
is that people do that as well. We know on some level that whenever we express a vulnerability or a messy moment, other people are like, oh, they make so much of it. And it's like, this is just one moment of my day that I am sharing with you. It is not the totality of who I am. And so that feeling is scary because I think on some level, socially, it's true. People do track our messy moments. People do make a lot out of them. And that feeling of, well, I don't want to be seen that way. We don't have control over how other people see us, full stop. So trying to orient ourselves in such a way that we micromanage other people's perceptions of us is an absolute waste of our energy. And where I'm most interested in is where do I abandon myself because I think that other people are judging me and I'm going to judge myself first to try and protect myself from that inevitability because I can't control what they're doing, but I can control and I can see absolutely that I'm recreating those relational patterns in my relationship with myself with this amount of self-judgment that I have every time I do even something just a little bit out of the line.
So is basically what you're saying is every time we try to control the perception that other people have of us, we are abandoning our own needs.
Let's take a quick break.
Having been in therapy since the age of 12, I know firsthand just how powerful the process of finding the right therapist is. Going to therapy and talking things out with my therapist has made me happier, clearer, and most importantly, I have a plan for my mental health. I have tools to be able to communicate with others and also the tools to cope when life gets hard, which it does. So let me ask you a question. Is something interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals? Regardless if you have a clinical mental health issue like depression or anxiety, or if you're just a human who lives in this world who is going through a hard time, therapy can give you tools to approach your life in a very different way. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about today's sponsor, BetterHelp. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and more accessible. And this is an important mission because finding a therapist can be really hard, especially when you're limited to the options in your area. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, BetterHelp can match you to a professional therapist in as little as a few days. It's easy to sign up and get get matched with the therapist. There's a link in my description. It's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Vasavi. That's BetterHelp.com/Vasavi. Clicking that link helps support this podcast, but it also gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp, so you can connect with the therapist and see if it helps you. And because finding a therapist is a little like dating, if you don't really fit with that therapist, which is a common thing with therapy, you can easily switch to a new therapist at no additional cost without stressing out about insurance, who's in your network, or anything like that. I don't know where I would be without the help of therapy and my therapist, but I do know that life would feel that much harder. So if you're struggling, consider online therapy with BetterHelp. Click the link in the description or visit betterhelp.com/Vasavi. Thank you again, BetterHelp, for supporting this podcast.
Yeah, well, because in that moment, belonging to that person matters more to us than belonging to ourselves.
Can we get into the kind of needs that you discuss in your book? Like, do you have, by the way, I have not read your book yet. I just want everyone to know. I mean, I cannot wait to get it, but I want to understand that, are there different types of needs? I mean, obviously I know this answer, but I want to talk about what's in your book, you know?
Yeah. So, I think that the needs that we're the most familiar with are the physical needs of our body. And we need to breathe, we need to eat, we need to rest, we need to hydrate, we need to move, those things that impact our physiological functioning. And because the effects of not having those needs met are so pronounced, they're often the first that we notice. Mm-hmm. But I think beyond that, and, this is in my book, each chapter has a different need that we focus on through 9 chapters, from safety to celebration. So we talk about safety, rest, sustenance, trust, integrity, sovereignty, love, belonging, and celebration. And I make the case that not only do we not know what we need, but we also don't know what is possible to need, which is one of the reasons why this question is so confronting of, what do I need? Well, I don't know. What's on the table? What am I even allowed to ask for? I mean, maybe I don't have any role models for people who are advocating for their needs. Maybe I don't know anybody who really cares about themselves all that much.
Yes.
And what am I even supposed to ask for? And so we're limited by our own comprehension of what is possible for a person to need. And so we default to, okay, well, I've heard, about physical needs. That makes sense. It's tangible. I'm in a human body. But what about our emotional needs? And what about our spiritual needs? And the need to be connected to something larger than ourselves, the need to be in community, the need to be seen, the need to feel celebrated, the need for, integrity, that feeling of, my life is in alignment with my values. I know how and why I'm making the decisions that I'm making. We have these needs, but until we start to have a framework for how we think about them, it's hard to wrap our head around it. And so I don't blame any of us for being profoundly confused about what we need, because we don't have a cultural dialogue about what is even possible to need.
Mm-hmm. In your perspective, what is the difference between a need versus a want? Let me share why I'm asking you this. So I grew up to immigrant parents. My parents are from India. Okay. And my mother did not grow up with a lot of money. My father grew up with money. But there was a lot of scandal in my dad's house. It wasn't in a very safe place. It was financially very abundant, emotionally not very safe. And so both my parents came together, they got married. And so I was raised very differently about needs versus wants. Everything was my father gave me everything I wanted. If I wanted it, it was like, so I learned if I wanted something, I could have it. So my wants became my needs. I started to think my wants were my needs. My mother, on the other hand, her messaging was, always ask yourself before you buy something. It was always about buying stuff. She goes, do I need this or do I want this? But for me, I was like, cares if I need it? I want it, right? And if I want it, I need it. That's when I was a kid. I would love to hear from you in your mind. What is the difference between the two?
Yeah. So First, I'll say that I find people are hyper invested in putting needs and wants into a hierarchy.
Oh, okay.
And
Love that.
again, I have so much compassion for this because if we think, well, I have only, a certain amount of my precious resources, my time, my energy, my attention, my cash, I need to figure out what is the most important thing and throw my resources at that. But I think if we take needs and wants and put them side by side, I like to think about them in such a way that a need is what you require in order to exist and survive and thrive, whether that's in your relationship with yourself, relationships with other people, or a situation, circumstance. And a want is what you desire. Mm-hmm. And I can hear in this that, well, a need sounds really important and a want sounds really optional. But actually, they work in concert with one another. So the need defines the container. The need is the what, and the want is the how. So to use a really simplistic situation, we might think about breakfast, right? I'm hungry. I need to eat. That's the need.
Yeah.
And what I want to eat is scrambled eggs with my favorite sourdough toast and like a little sprinkle of salt and some cracked pepper, right? So they work together where the need is the thing and the want is the what flavor am I specifically craving? And when we utilize both our needs, we acknowledge that I have a need and also that I have a desire for how that need is met, then we're really cooking, because then we're getting to the place of when these two things combine, this is truly allowing me to create something in my life that feels sustainable, but is also deeply satisfying. This is part of the reason why we don't feel satisfied, because we follow these self-care lists that are made for other people. We don't take our own desire into account when we are making our decisions, by and large, because it feels optional. It's not optional. Your desires are really important. Whether or not you can afford to buy that thing, whether or not you choose to buy that thing, your desire for it is still important. It's data about you that you can use to make better fitting decisions for yourself in the future.
In Sanskrit, in our scriptures, there's a word. It says sukha and dukkha. Sukha and dukkha means likes and dislikes. And in the Hindu scriptures, it says, sukha and dukkha, our likes and dislikes, will keep us from achieving moksha. Moksha is liberation. It's liberation from the soul, because we believe in reincarnation. So in order to not be reincarnated, you have to be liberated from the soul. So if you have too many likes and dislikes, if you have too many needs, too many wants, you're not going to be liberated from the soul. Can you see how this fucks with you? Like, yeah, I'm thinking about everything, and I'm like, well, I'm not supposed to. I mean, I don't obviously believe this, but there are a lot of people. That's why I'm sharing my background. There are a lot of people who are probably raised with that belief. It's like, well, you should be happy with what you have.
Absolutely.
For me, my 7-year-old brain, it's like, shit, I'm going to be reincarnated again. And we don't want that. We want to be liberated from the soul. So I can't have needs. Like, I love that you're talking about this, Mara, that you've written a book about it. So how do we begin to rewire ourselves to be okay with, and actually truly believing it's our birthright to have needs and to fulfill those needs and to ask for those needs?
Yeah, I think that this is lifetime work. Mm-hmm. And understanding how we have been socialized to the point where we are now, and the amount of time and the amount of messaging that has gone into that helps us to understand that this isn't a quick fix. This is a daily conversation to have with yourself. And generally, I start with, well, is your life working now? Because for some people, they don't have, quote unquote, have needs because their needs are being met by and large. They may not acknowledge that they have them, but they have, by whatever luck, circumstance, or privilege, their needs are being met overall, right? Sometimes we don't acknowledge things because it's like, well, there's not really a problem.
Well, I would like to also add, is it also because some people just don't have high standards? Because if you have pretty standards, you're like, well, I have entertainment. I have fun. Oh, yeah, you drink beer with your family and your brothers or your friends, or that's all you're like, oh, I'm getting my need for socialization because I'm hanging out, drinking beer and watching football. I'd look at that as, is that really the standard in your life? That's meeting that need for connection? I don't know. I'm just wondering, like, do you think this has anything to do with our own personal standards?
Well,
What if
I
we
think
yeah, go ahead.
personal standards are a personal issue, right? For somebody, drinking beers and hanging out might very well meet that need for connection. It doesn't for me in particular, and it sounds like it doesn't for you. And so here's the thing, is that is all that is important, right? Is that we understand this isn't enough for me. And my only job is my life, right? So now that I have this data, this isn't enough for me, I can start to think about other ways to meet my need for connection, my need for social input and community, because I'm my own responsibility. Whatever you're choosing about how you get your needs met, yeah, maybe, well, we may have low standards in our lives for a multitude of reasons, but some people are just easier going than me.
I have way too many.
This is
I actually want to correct myself. I do want to correct myself based on what you just said. Who am I to call it a low standard? I want to actually just call myself out. Who am I to play God in this moment and say, well, that's a low standard? That's if you are surviving and waking up every day, then you know what? That's whatever you're doing, keep going. You know, I have this, I want to share this with you, Mara. My rehab counselor back in the day said this. It was the most compassionate thing I think I've heard, and it helped me forgive myself for using so many substances and destroying my life in a way. She said to me, Vas, did you ever think that using so much cocaine during that period of your life, it did fill a need for you? You needed that to survive that toxic relationship. There's no other way you could have functioned in that awful relationship had you not had the drugs. And when I heard that, Mara, I almost instantly forgave myself, because I was like, who am I to judge what I needed at that time to survive a very shitty time in my life? So I want to call myself out with everybody. Your standards are your standards. I'm not here to judge, but you get to ask yourself, what, Mara? What do you get to ask yourself?
Is this working for me?
Yeah.
And that's it. That's really it. And you know what? It is true. We are doing the best that we can, by and large, whether or not we're acknowledging our needs, whether or not our needs are getting met, how we are meeting those needs. There are often many layers of what might eventually feel like dysfunction that you shrug off on the path to really partnering with yourself. But it's important to have kindness for the fact that dysfunction almost always starts as a coping mechanism, as a way of getting through, and a way of meeting a need that you may not know how to name, that you may not have the capacity to deal with, that you don't know what else to do with. And so, we're doing the best that we could. So, for example, take you back to my story that when I was such a perfectionist, when I was over delivering, I deeply wanted to be seen and I deeply wanted to be known. But I felt so chaotic inside and so fragile and so uncertain of myself that I thought that the only way to be known was to present myself in such a way that I deemed worthy of that. And the stronger that I became, the more self-trust that I built, the more that I was able to really step back into my relationship with myself and realize, hey, what's most important is that I like me and that I approve of me. Is that comfortable? No. Look, I'm about to put this book out into the world. You're about to put a book out into the world. For me, this feeling of, what, now I'm sending this representative of me that feels so personal, and you're going to be in your own house thinking your own feelings about me, and I'm not going to be there to correct the record or like do a cute thing or be, charming or make you like me. Yep. You're going to have feelings about me based on what I have written that have nothing to do with me. And it has really brought forward this desire in me for every single person on the freaking planet to like me all of the time. And it is it is painful to be revisited by that part of myself during this process, but it comes forward again for another level of healing, another level of me getting on my own side and saying, hey, yeah, it is scary. This is brave. I didn't have the bravery to be visible in this way even 4 years ago, right? We are always growing.
I'm going to say this. First of all, completely same page as you. Same exact page as you, thinking, shit, someone's going to be reading this. They're going to think I'm entitled. They're going to think I'm a brat. They're going to think I'm just this complaining broad, right? My father always used to say, don't be you're just complaining. You should be, what do and you're crazy because you're talking to the voices in your head. My biggest fear, Mara, and I'm going to say this straight up, is, I'm this licensed therapist. I have this prestigious education and I have bipolar disorder. And I'm talking to the voices in my head. You know what's going on in my head? It's like, people are going to think this is a crazy ass bitch. She's a crazy ass bitch. She's talking to the voices in her head. And here's how I've been dealing with it. I keep remembering what my father said to me when I was a kid. It's just a thought in their head. You have no control over a thought in their head. That's one thing that's really been helpful for me. Cause it's like, as someone who has gone through recovery, it's like, I know the process of surrendering. I know the process of being like, fuck it. I cannot control this. Okay. So that's the first thing that's helped. The second that I have done, maybe this will help you. I think this might be some of my acting background, or just maybe that I'm, slightly crazy, is I will picture myself reading my first negative review. And I don't live in a fantasy. I'm not going to sit here and think every single person's going to like my stuff. This is the nature of art. There are so many people that had so much shit to say about Rihanna's performance in the Super Bowl, right? Oh. And then there was that band camp of people. I was one of them that's like, yes, she was pregnant. She did the least while exuding the most. I love her. Here's the thing about art. People don't have to like your shit. They don't. And that is, we are allowed to say, you know what? I don't like that book, needy. You know what? I hate this girl who wrote this book. Say it out loud. Who does she think she is? People are allowed to say and feel what they want, but I will be unbothered by it. That is my promise to myself. Now, when I get my first negative review, we'll see how I really respond. But this is the vibe that I'm going into the book launch. Okay. So I just wanted to share that. Maybe it helps.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, a part of it is, I find myself perseverating on the people in I wrote this book. A lot of it is about my childhood, living in the same town that I live in now with all of the same people that I live with now. Wow. So, then these people say, well, I pre-ordered your book. And I'm like, awesome. Like, bury it in the backyard, take it to the swap shop. Thank you for pre-ordering. Very important. Please pre-order.
Don't read
it. But, at a certain point, I just had to say to myself, like, what, again, back to that version of me that was crying in that hotel room, is like, what am I so afraid that people are going to see?
Well, what is it? Do this. What do you need from this book? Like, this is what I've been asking myself. So I'm just like asking you this, right? Like, playing off the word needy. What do you need? What do you need for this book to do for people? Like, what's your need? Like, what do you want this book? Or I'm going to say want, but I'm going to use the word needy. What do you need? This is what I'm asking myself. What do you need for this book to do for people? Like, what's the intention? That's where I'm kind of heading here.
There's two layers to this. The first is that this is a real soul, this book is a real soul imperative for me. And I feel as though I have already achieved that. I was the kid who wanted to write a book. That was like my number one dream for my life. And so holding the book right now, it's, it's
beautiful.
I did it. I did it. So that's one part. The second part is, for so many years, my clients have been saying to me that I am the only person that they know who speaks even neutrally about needs. And how are we supposed to know what we need if we can't even talk about having needs in a neutral way? Not even, yes, I have needs and I'm happy about it, right? But just I am a person and I have needs. Some of my needs are easily met. Some of them feel like they're being dredged up from the bottom of a swamp. Some of them feel super uncomfortable. I judge these needs, whatever it is. And when I sold this book, my dad said, are you ready to be the neediest woman in America? And I absolutely fucking am, because somebody has to be, and I don't mind.
Mara, you're saying what I just said the other day. You're saying it in your own way. That's what I love. Is that I said this the other day. I'm going to take one for the team. I'm doing the Lord's work. If I have to be the one to be the loudmouth, to be the obnoxious one, to be the aggressive one, because what I am doing is actually just speaking the truth that I think people that I have anchored into myself, and I think people need to hear this, that I'm okay being labeled as the loudmouth, aggressive, bitchy one, whatever. And maybe I won't be. That's just my own mind where my mind goes. I'm okay taking one for the team. That's what I hear you saying right now.
Yeah.
I love that. Like literally meet the neediest woman in America. Like that's amazing. You got to coin that. That's great. That's great. You are, and we're owning it. It's kind of like the word selfish. I've really owned the word selfish because it's like we are taught to be martyrs, and it's like, no, I'm the most. I always say I'm the most self-centered, selfish person alive, and I say that, and I really own that because I could not do the work that I do at the capacity that I do it with the swiftness that I do it with the excellence that I do it with, if I did not come first in my life. So we can just twist that around. So I love that. How can we start to reclaim our neediness? Like, I actually just want people to reclaim it and be like, yeah, I'm needy. I think it needs to be a thing that people really claim and say out loud about themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Because what does needy mean anyway? It
Yes.
means I want to be seen and known. I want to matter. I want to have conditions for how people treat me. I want to be regarded and prioritized and cared for as if I am important. And I want that for all of us. You know, that neediness. And furthermore, I think that part of the problem with neediness is your needs aren't a problem unless you ignore them. So that needy, hungry ghost that we can all kind of conjure in our minds, that only shows up when your needs aren't being met or acknowledged for so long that it's just seeping out all over the place. You know, when I was talking before about when my life fell apart, it was over here was perfect and over here was a mess because I had so many needs that were not even acknowledged. And it was just like, I just couldn't, I would get so upset wanting something that I didn't even know what it was or how to ask for it, but I knew I didn't have it. And it just would be so frustrating. It's kind of like, I have a 3-year-old. So it's kind of like when you're forming language and she just wants to punch you in the face or yell at you or, you know, completely unravel because she quite literally doesn't have the language to express what she wants you to know. And it is so frustrating that she just becomes completely fraught. And that is neediness, right? I know on some level that I want and need something. I know on some level that those needs aren't being met, but I don't know what else to do. And so I wrote this book to give you a framework. First of all, what's possible to need. And second of all, how to figure out what you need. And third of all, how to begin advocating for those needs so that you can have the language first for yourself and with yourself. And then second with the people who are around you and say, hey, you know, I need it this way. Or when you do X, Y, and Z thing, it doesn't feel good. And not every relationship is going to survive that. I share stories in the book about relationships where I started having needs and it was not desired. But look, I'm okay with that too. At some point, it's like, why do I want to be in a relationship that only functions if I am being somebody who I'm not, or, you know, eating up all the discomfort in the room or bending myself into shape so that you feel a certain kind of way. I don't have time for that. I don't have energy for that. And I don't want to do that anymore.
You know what I love about listening to you speak? You know, I'm a voiceover artist, so I pay attention to, I mean, my voice and how I use it is everything, you know, and I'm listening to you right now. I love this, the voice that you use, this neutral voice around your needs. And I shared this on my Instagram the other day, how, why the hell do we over explain what we need? Just say it. And so I think, like, I want everyone listening to this, if you have a tendency to over explain and give a lot of information and backstory and, you know, preface it, you have an intro, you have a conclusion to your needs, like, just say what you need. And I would love for you to take a page out of Mara's voice. Like, listen to her voice because she's so neutral. There's no charge around it. It's just, this is what I need. And so I were you always like that when you started expressing and saying your needs? How did you used to express your needs? Because I will share, but I want to hear from you. How did you used to share it, and how do you do it now?
Yeah, no,
Because that's the ultimate goal, right? Yeah, the
Yeah.
ultimate goal is, listen, we don't operate on an island. We need other people to help us meet our needs. Yes, there are needs that we can meet ourselves. I had a chirping smoke detector, okay? I couldn't find someone to come do it. I needed someone to come do it. I figured it out, though. Do you know what I mean? But it's like we have needs, and I think we need to allow ourselves to express that. So what was that like for you, expressing them, the voice aspect of it?
So because I'm a perfectionist,
Yes.
I wanted to kind of soft launch it privately and workshop it until it was exactly on, and then reveal it perfectly to other people, which of course is not possible. But how many years of my life did I spend on that project? Many, many, many years. And the truth is, when you start setting boundaries, when you start asking for what you need, when you start letting people know how you really feel and engaging in healthy conflict, you are it's either going to be over or under. I mean, you're going to be screaming and it's going to seem like, what the fuck? This just came completely out of nowhere. And all of a sudden you're screaming and crying and doing a whole thing. Or it's going to be like you're whispering and that person's not even in the room anymore. And you're like, I don't know why they didn't hear me. Well, because you did not say an audible word about it. And we think we can just take a lot of courses or read a lot of books and then we're going to be able to do it perfectly. But this is worked out in practice. We have to be willing to get it wrong. I remember, when I was learning how to set boundaries, it was either just way too much, way too strong, or it was the kind, what is that boundary? It's like, maybe if you feel like you could possibly, I don't know, or the over explaining. Randy Buckley, who's a coach, says that an explanation sounds like a negotiation, which is, I have that seared into my brain because it's true, right? We over explain. We really want the other person to have that buy-in because really we want them to approve of our needs. And we think that they're saying yes means that they approve of our needs. But whether or not somebody else has the capacity to meet your need is not a referendum on your need itself. Your needs are absolutely valid. However you express them, give yourself grace. You are just learning. And your needs are valid. Whether somebody else has the capacity to meet you in that need is their business. The ask is your business. And how you tolerate their response is also your business. But I think we get, especially when we're new to this, and especially if we carry a lot of stories around asking for our needs to be met, we can perseverate on how somebody responds to us and take that in and think, oh, well, they said no, should never ask again. Oh, see, look what happens when I ask for my needs to be met. When in reality, we all have a ton of shit on our plates, especially at this point, years into this pandemic, years into all of the things that are going on globally. We are stretched very thin, and whether or not somebody has the capacity to meet you in your need doesn't mean anything about you most often. It means everything about them, and you should want people to tell you the truth about whether or not they have the capacity to meet you in that need. And you should also work to tell the truth about whether or not you have the capacity to meet them in their needs, right? That is emotional honesty.
You will become a lot more comfortable with people's no's when you start to say the no's yourself and you start to honor it. You won't, it's the same thing with tone of voice, Mara. My mother, has a harsh tone of voice. She will openly say, yes, it's harsh. Do you know that it was so hard for me specifically certain white women, because I grew up in an all white town on Long Island. I was very scared of white women specifically having a certain tone of voice. It reminded me of my mother. And until I started to own that voice in me, which is, by the way, I'm not afraid of that. It's a very clear, direct, there's not a lot of emotion. There's not a lot of fluff. It's exactly what you're saying. It's neutral. It's not harsh. It's not harsh. My mother's harsh, her volume, everything. But I'm talking about this, like when I became okay with a certain tone in my own voice and started using that direct tone. I know it's coming from a place of kindness. I'm not out to get you. I started being okay with white women who would talk to me in a certain way. Normally, I'd feel small and I'd feel like I'm less than. It'd revert me back to being kindergarten, first, second, third grade. It's the same thing. What you're saying here with your needs is when you start to honor your needs and you express those out loud, but first you got to get Mara's book and know what your needs are in the first place. And you start to express that out loud, even if somebody says no, the growth and the thing that needs to be celebrated is that you at least asked. You at least asked, because asking is the bulk of it, right? Is like, we have them, great, you've identified them. Now where are you going to go to get them met? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and being on your own team around having needs. And I think that, we often hyper focus on advocating for our needs. And even as I was writing this book, my editors wanted me to put more about advocating for needs in the book. And I did add some in, but this book is really focused on how we get to the ask, all of that internal work, because again, too often we bypass ourselves to try and, get it into a quick soundbite so that we can easily deliver it, when inside of me might be this whole galaxy of questions and curiosities and thoughts and needs, and that deserves our attention. We deserve our own attention. And so the more that we're able to be in communication with our own needs, the more that we're able to advocate for them with clarity and with confidence. And it's just so important. And I think, people will often ask if at this point in my life I get all of my needs met. And I love to say that I categorically do not, because that is not what it's about. We all have unmet needs. But there's a difference between seeing a need and holding a need and honoring it inside of yourself and ignoring it or locking it away because it's inconvenient. I'm at a phase in my life where I have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. I have this book coming out. It's February, so everyone's been sick for the last 3 months, pretty much nonstop. And I am totally able to acknowledge there are things that live inside of me that I do not have time for or bandwidth for right now. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the need. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong with my life. It just means at this moment, it's a poor fit, and I can hold those multitudes without shutting it down, locking it away, making it bad. And that's the piece. Even, we think, oh, well, all of my needs need to be met in a relationship in order for that relationship to be good. It's such a setup. And even in a great relationship, it still takes two, right? Your partner might be going through a grief season. They might have things of their own that they're dealing with, right? And when we come together, it's in this compromise. But I think, we have to give so much grace to the human element here, where we're all trying to do the best that we can. We're trying to know ourselves. We're trying to communicate what we know to be true. We're trying to ask for what we need. And that's all good work, whether or not those needs are being met ultimately.
What I want to end with is to ask you, it just came to me. I thought it would be fun. So you have 9 chapters. Each of these 9 chapters is a different need. Can you share these 9 needs for me real quick? Yeah.
Safety, rest, sustenance, trust, integrity, sovereignty, belonging, love, and celebration.
All right. So I want to ask you this. Okay. And then I want to ask you this because, I never know who's listening, who may really resonate with something like, ooh, I like that need. I'm going to put that in my needy toolbox. Sometimes we don't even know what's possible, like Mara said, unless we hear somebody else and you're like, wait a minute, that's amazing. I think I do need that. Right. So that's why I want to ask you these questions, Mara. We'll just do these like rapid fire if you're cool with that. Okay.
I love it.
What's your need for safety? Like, what do you need to feel safe?
Right now, I need to remind myself every single day that I am safe to be who and how I am, and that it's my opinion ultimately that matters most.
Beautiful. What's your need? What do you need for rest?
I need to be in bed by 10 p.m.
Okay.
every night.
What do you need for is it sustenance? No, what's the S?
Yeah, sustenance.
Sustenance, yes. I was shorthanding it as you were writing telling me. Yeah. What's your need?
Breakfast. I
Yeah.
need to make sure that I'm eating breakfast every morning, even though I want to rush right to my coffee.
You know what? I gotta do that too. This is what I do. I drink. I know it's not rapid fire. Sorry, I just need to say this out loud.
It's all right.
I drink my 30 ounces of water and I go for a walk. I literally drink my water out of my Yeti and go a few, blocks around my little cul-de-sac. Then I make the most glorious basic bitch latte, which is also the oat milk latte, which I love so much in my beautiful influenced Amazon glass. I was so influenced. And I do that. And I'm like, right now, I'm good. But it's like, I love the taste of coffee. I'm going to take that from you. I'm going to take that from you. I'm going to eat after this interview. I usually eat around noon. But if I'm being really honest, at this age, I'm 40 at this point. And when I wake up at 6. I just wake up without an alarm and I love it. I probably should have food in my stomach by 7. Like if I'm really being honest with myself, I start to feel that. So thank you for saying that. Yes.
Even just a little. That's what I tell myself. Even just a little.
I just don't, I don't have an issue. Trust me, I'm not starving. Yeah. I don't deprive myself of food. It's just like, I got to make this. Like, I'm not even, but I'm not hungry. Like I'm not ignoring my hunger. I'm just not voracious. But that's teaching me, why do you have to go to fully starving to eat? Why don't you just, when you start to feel it, start to so I've been thinking about that. Thank you for sharing that. All right. What do you need to feel trust?
Right now, trust is such a practice for me because I'm not feeling very connected to it. And so I am going through the intellectual exercise of connecting with people that my brain tells me it is safe to trust, even if I don't feel it in my body, and asking them to support me in this book process, which has been very confronting and also so needed.
So needed, pun intended. What is your need for integrity?
That I don't hustle my way through this freaking book launch. Every single day, I'm like, that is not a value that you have. You are not allowed to selectively just pull it out of a hat because this feels like it's really important. It's not in the spirit of the book for you to turn yourself inside out. So don't.
I love that for you. So that's you being in integrity with yourself.
Yeah.
And what is your need for, how do you meet your sovereignty need?
I think that taking space from the situation that is happening, usually a conversation, and asking myself, what do I think about it? How do I feel? But in my own space. Sometimes it's hard for me to connect with that when I'm in the presence of somebody else. So I'll go to the bathroom or go outside or take a phone call or something to just give me that space to ask what I think and how I feel.
I love that you give yourself permission to have that space, giving yourself space to access your own personal, your sovereignty. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
How about your need for belonging? I want to hear this one.
I think so much of my work right now is in belonging to myself and thinking about, how I dress, what I say yes to, what I say no to, how I set up my day, that I'm really turning towards myself instead of turning first towards my to-do list or towards, the world around me to ask what is needed or wanted from me, which is important, especially during a time where there's so much on my to-do list.
Yes.
But yeah, in little ways, like, I don't know, I got this haircut. You can't see it. This is just an audio, but I love it.
Yeah.
Things like that. I'm like, I'm into what I'm wearing right now. I'm into how I'm putting this together. I personally am deriving joy from this.
Okay, Mara, I got to say this to you real quick, okay? Because, most of us, we all work at home, and I've shamed myself because, all these Instagram influencers who are like, why do you look so good working from home, right? That's my thing. It's like, why do you put makeup on when you're working from home? I would be like a little like judgy. But what I realized was I had to find my way of belonging to myself. So I got real with myself and I was like, boss, of course I said it out loud, boss, when you're working at home, what do you want your vibe to be? What do you want your look to be? And I realize that what I really love when I'm working from home, even what I dress like, Mara, is to like, I don't like to wear a lot of makeup. I really don't, unless I absolutely have to. And if I'm on stage or camera, but like, I'm like, I love wearing a good hoodie, and I love wearing like having my hair sleeked back or at least somewhat blown out, or wearing a nice pair of earrings. And I'm owning that about myself. Like, I'm not the person that's going to get dolled up when I'm working at home. I can go from dirtbag to diva real quick. Okay. I know that I look like degenerate. I go to degenerate to diva. Like, and I've given myself permission. I love that you said that about from what you eat to from what you wear, because that's you belonging to you. Those little things instead of trying to emulate other people. So thank you for saying that. Wanted to just share that on the personal front as well.
I love it.
Thank you. Your need for love. How do you get that met?
I have been really, I'll just say this. So I'm doing an advanced reader crew for my book. And I showed up at the first meeting and I said, this is an opportunity for you to love me. And I do not want to hear, please feel very free to have any criticisms of the book. I mean, if you don't like it, that's fine. I'm under no illusion that everyone will, but I'm not interested in hearing about it until at least March 15th. So I'm just really explicit. Like, you may love on me in these specific ways. And if you have criticisms, love me enough to not share them with me right now, even if they're constructive, even if they're kind, even if I'm sure that they are, but I still don't want to hear about it right now.
You know what? I think you're saying that just for me right now. And maybe other people need to hear this. My mother has seen a little bit of the manuscript. And she has already said, why did you say this about me? Why'd you do this? And then I'm fucking sitting there explaining my childhood and being gaslit once again that didn't happen. That didn't happen. I am going to say that to her. She doesn't mean to. Listen, here's the thing. My mother is who she is. Everyone is just who they are. It is our job. Once again, this is not about my mother. This is about, but it's like, she just represents that voice of, you did this, you did that. We're already dealing with that. So I love that boundary. And I love that you have stated that, like, hey, if you want to talk shit, or if you want to give me criticism, please wait till I at least have 3 weeks under my belt so I can digest this, outpouring of love that I'm going to receive, and maybe criticism, Mara, right? Like, it might happen, and I don't think that we need to lie to ourselves and be like, that's not going to happen. That not everyone's going to love us, and that's okay. That's okay. That not everyone's going to like my writing or your writing, and that's okay. Because for every person that doesn't like what you have to say, there's going to be 10 other people that are like, oh my God, thank you so much. You've allowed me to own my inner needy. And it's going to be something that people are like, yes, they're going to claim that. They're going to claim that about themselves.
Yeah.
Because of
and
you.
Setting boundaries is such an act of love, both for yourself and for the relationship. Like, I had a similar experience with my parents. They both got copies, maybe in July, that they have not read. And that is fine. But about a month ago, I said, okay, your copies are now being rescinded because you didn't read it up until now. That's fine. It is too emotionally fraught for me to even think about you reading it at this point. So I'm just going to take them back, and then you can have them back in March after the book comes out. And again, an act of love for myself, but also an act of love for the relationship. Like, there's no need. I know I'm not going to bring my best self to that conversation right now. And that is an act of love for them as well.
Yes. Yes. I love that. It's about you. It's about them. And it's really about, what do you need in this season? And rescinding it is, I would do the same thing. I actually sent my uncle, my mother's brother, who's like one of my favorite uncles. He's in the acknowledgement section of my book, him and my aunt. I sent him a copy and PDF, and he hasn't read it, and because he's a nephrologist and he's busy. But I'm about to say to him, he's my favorite uncle. He raised us, basically. I'm about to say to him, you don't have time to read my book. I'm going to take it back. But you know what I'm going to do, Mara? I'm going to say it. I'm going to be neutral and say, listen, if you don't have time to read my book right now, you can just send it back to me. It's okay. Like, for me, here's what I'm getting from this. And we're going to get to your last need, which is the need for celebration. I can't wait to hear this. I want to tell what I'm taking away from this. I have been labeled and thought of myself in a bad way, that I am too energetic and I'm too emotional. What I'm realizing is that there's a time and place for my energy and my emotion. And where I'm like, yeah, I'm in it, right? But now what I'm taking from this is a practice for me. When I express my needs, I'm going to channel my inner Mara. I'm going to be neutral. And I'm just going to say it. That for me is what I am holding myself accountable to. I have often thought as a child, because I screamed to be heard as a child. I screamed. I had a lot of temper tantrums. I would hit myself as a child. I would hit the wall. I would mostly hurt myself though. And I screamed to be heard. And then when I got into relationships, I did not know how to ask. I used damsel in distress to get what I need. I whined a lot to get what I need. I would be like, but this is devastating. Everything was catastrophic for me. I would perseverate. I love that you use the word perseverate a few occasions. And I'm really working on, because I'm wanting to be in a relationship at some point again, maybe get married again, to be able to ask for what I need without all the drama. I don't need to create drama to get my needs met. So I just want to say thank you for just you being so you and speaking the way that you speak. And I'd love to hear from you. What do you need to feel celebrated? Your last need in the book, chapter 9.
I'm throwing a book launch rager, and it's going to be awesome. I went back and forth on this because of COVID and, all just the many, many ways that I thought throwing an in-person event isn't accessible, and really honoring my need for it. I'm doing plenty of virtual things, but I just I want to have my cake with a cover of the book on it. I just can visualize exactly what I want it to be. And I'm just going to let myself have it. And I'm really excited about that. And I definitely come from a place of like inviting kids to my party when I was a kid and they didn't come. And it was really, so yes. Throwing myself a party, especially of this scale, feels very much like, well, what if people don't want to come? But it also feels so important to really honor my need and not talk myself out of it, like not make it smaller or less fancy or less like, yes, there will be signature cocktails. Yes, there is going to be a DJ. I'm going to be signing, but it's going to be ridiculous. And that is so me. And I spent so much of my life toning it down and asking for what I thought I could get instead of what I really wanted. And in this season of celebration, I am just asking for what I want. And it's a wild party.
Your rager sounds, hopefully, or maybe you'll have some ecstasy pills running around. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. It sounds beautiful. I want you to have a great time, like really enjoy it. I want to say thank you for saying about birthday parties. I must be really clear on the inside for these conversations. Like, you would not believe the memory that popped up yesterday for me last night, Mara, was this crazy that you literally just said that. I was watching, I don't know what I was watching last night, but the memory of being in third grade, having my, I guess I was 8 or 9, having my birthday party at my house. Of course, I wanted to be accepted. I invited all the cool girls, all the guys, and then we all played in my basement, spin the bottle. No one wanted to kiss me. In fact, Jimmy Newtsis was like, ew, you're disgusting, right? This was at my house. None of the girls were talking to me. And I remember going upstairs to my parents and saying, nobody's hanging out with me at my own party. Okay. So I just want to say that there is a reason God had you say those words just now, because for me, it's like, well, I should say it out loud, rager.
Yes, you should.
This is why we say it out loud. This is why we express our needs, because when Mara just spoke her truth, I had this literally same thought last night. And I remember, and I didn't say anything about it, but then she brought it up and I was like, oh shit, this is a sign. I've been grappling with this, Mara. Should I have a book party? Oh, it's not a big deal. But when I think about, and when you think about what it's taken emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, psychologically, educationally, professionally for you to get here, why the fuck would you not throw a rager?
Yeah,
and I'm
for
saying that
years. I'm working on it for years.
For years. And you haven't been writing this book for years, but you've been writing it on the inside. You've been doing that shit on the inside, getting clear on your needs, expressing your needs, being okay with someone saying no to your needs, abandoning yourself, coming back home. You've done the thing to write this book. This book is not just, I wrote a book. It's taken a lot on the inside for you to write a self-help book. Do you know what it takes to actually write a self-help book and actually live it? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So this book it clearly is unlocking so much in you, even in the process, right? You are not the same person that you were when you first started writing this book. Am I right or am I right?
Oh God, absolutely.
Yeah. And when you're revisiting each chapter and rewriting and editing, we're literally being confronted with, where am I still bullshitting myself? That's why that paragraph doesn't come out, because you're lying to yourself about something. I'm convinced. Anytime I was stuck writing, I'd be like, where am I lying to myself? Where am I not saying it out loud? And for you, maybe it's like, what need is not, you know what I mean? Like, did you have those moments when you were writing?
Yeah. Needing to be liked.
Yeah. Okay. Right? So your need to be liked was keeping you from writing your book on needy. My need to be liked was keeping me from being direct in my book. I was so afraid of being just like, and I had a girlfriend read it and she goes, Vas, she goes, I know we're friends. She goes, but, and she goes, I've never seen your writing like this before. She goes, you're just, it's for the reader. Like, you can tell, like, you wrote this it's not about, yes, I have stories about me, just like you have, but we had to strip away at our need to be liked for us to be able to put those words down on paper. So I just want to celebrate you and say, I'm proud to know you and have you on this podcast. I respect you for all the work that you've done internally, and now that you've turned it into a book. I want everyone to know where they can get this book. Obviously, we know Amazon. What's the actual website for people to go get the book, though?
Yeah, come find me at maraglatzel.com/book. You can find links to all of the places online that you can buy it. But most importantly, you can find a lot of goods that I've created for you, including a ticket to the pre-launch party, which is going to be happening, and it's going to be so fun. So come hang out with me, maraglatzel.com/book.
Thank you so much, Mara, for being here on the Say It Out Loud podcast. Thank you for freeing so many people who are listening to this to know that it is okay to be needy. You have the permission to advocate for your needs and claim your sovereignty. It's been a pleasure to have you here.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's just been really amazing. And I'm super excited to have you on my podcast in a few weeks for your book.
There's just something amazing when two social workers get together. It can really be complete chaos, or it can just be a total shit show. It can be a total shit show because it's like we know too much. We know too much about ourselves and others. So it's like, where could this conversation go? So I'm very excited to talk to you as well. Thank you for saying that just now. Anyway, everyone, continue listening. Share this episode. Go buy the book, maraglatzel.com/book. Needy, how to advocate for your needs and claim your sovereignty. Stop saying you don't know what you need. There is literally a book written about it to help you figure out what the hell you want. Okay. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Say It Out Loud podcast.
If you love today's episode, then say it out loud. Subscribe, leave a review, and come say hi over on Instagram at My Name is Vasavi. Until next time, say it out loud.